Welcome to Rage, you nerds. I know that this time I can be heard, so that's awesome. Once in a million, girl.
What?
I can be heard. I'm heard. I'm seen. I'm heard. We're seen. We're heard. Listen.
What?
Listen, this Friday, no technical fucking difficulties, or I will burn this mother down. My name is Mr. Cack. This is my Twitch channel. This is a Facebook page that we all sort of contribute to, wherever you're watching us from. Hello! Joining me like they do on Friday nights, the lovely, the talented TJ and Jared.
Hi, everybody.
Let's see. Right off the bat, we've got MSM Wyatt wanting to change the topic on us because topics be damned, according to MSM Wyatt. He wants to talk food and anime. Wyatt, you need to show up on Tuesday when it's me and Reno. Me and Reno are the anime duo. TJ and Jared, not the ones they'll just check out. They'll get really hammered, and I gotta drag them out for at least another hour before I let them get too hammered. So, I mean, we can talk food. I feel pretty confident about our group being able to talk some food.
We can throw down on some food if you want to talk. Yeah. We could spend 3 weeks.
Look at me,
like we do these
like
tournaments.
Food.
No.
Yeah. Well, here we are.
I mean, if we're gonna do food, like, I don't mind to do a little. Hey, you know what? Just since we've got the gauntlet thrown, talk some food. So let's just go ahead. Let's switch this up right now. Let's go to Nerd Happy Hour. So go ahead and start casually sipping. But food, what do you want to talk about food, Wyatt? What food items are you wanting to discuss?
Olive Garden.
Olive Garden. I'm gonna say this, and I hope I offend someone. Olive Garden's ass. People hype that shit up so much.
Your face is ass.
We have similar faces because we have same dad. I guess, I don't know.
I'll tell you what, in all honesty, with the whole Olive Garden thing, I really just like their chicken Alfredo. I've never eaten anything else there when I go. That's it. Chicken Alfredo. That's it.
All I know is you're there, your family. That's
allegedly. Allegedly.
Have you? So it was a couple summers ago, but someone did one of those things where they like made an AI watch like so many hours of Olive Garden commercials, and then it produced its own commercial. And of course, all of those things are usually fake, but it's really clever writing because they write it like an AI would, which just takes like the most obscure references of something. And it's just like, I love that commercial if that was ever made into commercial, because it's like the waiter brings the nacho pastas, the customer smiles with cheesy grin and says, when you're here, you're here. yeah, that's good. You got it.
It's good.
The one time I show up at 9, nobody was there. Rock your face. Listen, we have some technical difficulties happening every so often.
Every week.
And it delays. Listen, I'd rather have the technical difficulties coming into the stream than straight up in the middle of the stream, and or when you appeared last week, Rock Your Face, and informed me that I had been talking for a good 40 minutes without anyone hearing a damn word. So I can't wait to... I'm still holding off looking on that and editing that. But I've got part 2 in our... Part 2 of the bracket talk on Spotify, and it should be uploaded to iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio comes a little bit later. Spotify's pretty quick to their upload, so. You got here just in time. We're making the switch over.
Oh, gosh. Evil, where you been, man?
It's time to talk some wrestling. Woo!
Woo!
Oh.
All
right, so we've got some wrestling to talk about. And
hey, could you click on the, if you don't mind, the multi-stream chat? Just because I know Evil's going to chime in. I want to see what he has to say.
Well, he's in Twitch chat.
Oh.
He's evil.
Oh, evil, like evil.
Yep. So this week we have 4 matchups again. So I'm going to miss the weeks that we don't have 4 matchups to discuss. But we're getting there. We're getting to the end of this story.
The discussions are going to get longer, though, so that's okay.
Yeah, so this week, we had 2 matches that seemed to have some conflict, 2 matches that seemed to be a done deal, one of which I would argue was inevitable. I felt like no matter who made it through to go against this person was not going to fare very well. Even though the person that made it through was someone I saved. So our match 1, we got Stone Cold Steve Austin versus CM Punk. It's clobbering time, he would yell.
We're gonna cheer.
Rock Your Face is still reminding us that Rey Mysterio should not have been taken out of the. Or wait, he's still in this, right? Rey Mysterio is still in this. I'm not making. Am I making that up?
No, he won.
Yeah, he beat Brock. That's right. He beat Brock. Okay,
Yeah.
so listen, don't hate on us, Rock Your Face. Rey Mysterio is still in this. He'll be discussed in next week for the second half of round 2. So keep wasting your bits now, and then continue wasting them next week. Not wasting. Continue supporting us as we listen to your pleas about Rey Mysterio. So this one I felt like I don't even know if we need to really discuss it outside of the fact that I think at times people enjoyed. Oh, listen, you had 2 good talkers, right? And I would argue CM Punk may be a better talker, but Stone Cold Steve Austin knew how to talk in the business side, right? Like he knew how to get stuff going. He had the what going, which was just it was just a dumb thing that he made great. And all he really had to do was kind of strut out there and hit someone with a Stone Cold Stunner. Like a lot of his interactions, he didn't really confront them. He would give him maybe and then like kick him in the junk and stunner him, and then get 2 beers, break those some bitches, and walk back. But. CM Punk, I think he would do better in a modern bracket. We need to put him, AJ, and everyone else that got eliminated that we use the excuse, a more modern bracket.
Here's the thing with Punk. I don't want to take anything away from Punk, but like I felt like his potential was he had so much potential that was just wasted, not because somebody wanted to do something to him, but because the guy's an asshole, and I all the stories I hear about CM Punk is he didn't want to play along. He was kind of a thorn in everybody's side. Nobody wanted to work with him, and to me, that's part of the business. Now, yes, we are talking about the greatest wrestler of all time, but as we discussed the previous weeks, there's a lot that goes into that. Being a jobber at some point is one of those things. And I just don't feel like he was ever that. Like he never wanted to cooperate. He played the game okay, but this is just an unfortunate incident that he has to go up against the Rattlesnake. There's no way out of this for CM Punk. What did social media say?
Social media said Stone Cold Steve Austin 100%.
Well, I'm going to agree with social media 100% because CM Punk does not survive this round.
Okay, so Austin. Rock Your Face throws in a really interesting and good point. CM Punk's most recent claim to fame before he rejoined wrestling by going to Fox's WWE, whatever the hell that show was called, Backstage, was CM Punk doing MMA and getting his ass handed to him for 2 or 3 consecutive bouts.
3 matches.
So yeah, that definitely kind of taints what maybe the most recent thing is. Now he looks even more like a punk ass because listen, you give him credit for going and doing what he wanted. Like he really wanted to try that. You give him credit for that, right? But man, he got beaten like a bitch.
So not only can he not act, he can't fight.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. TJ, anything about CM Punk or Stone Cold? I don't think we have to say anything about Stone Cold, but
Stone Cold, CM Punk has really been just the same like throughout his career. Stone Cold has reinvented himself so many times and remained relevant, to the point where all he does is say one line after winning King of the Ring, and that's where his career really takes off and doesn't deviate from.
Yeah.
At that point. CM Punk's good, but I wouldn't put him anywhere near Stone Cold.
No.
So.
Yeah. This may have been the easiest one we've done so far.
Yeah.
There's no way CM Punk wins this.
Yeah. So I think. Listen, CM Punk is probably easily is my favorite wrestler from like the 2000 to 2010 stretch where he was in there, right? So like that.
Right.
That or what I guess that extended to the early 2010s where he I think he left 2013 2012 something weird in there.
Sounds right.
So I really like CM Punk, but I love Stone Cold Steve Austin, so I mean, where I used a save to keep CM Punk in this. But to be fair, listen, if I didn't use my save and we had Andre the Giant versus Stone Cold, I feel like somehow there would be a way to make that poll like 110% in favor of Stone Cold Steve Austin, because Andre the Giant is he's just big. He's just big.
It was the attraction. It was the attraction over the ability. And I think you have to have at least some ability to be in greatest wrestler of all time. It can't just be your physique. Like who was the Giant Gonzalez? You can't put a 7-foot tall guy with a mullet, not 7 foot tall. Gosh, he was close to 8 foot tall. Now that I think about it. But I mean, he was supposed to be this impending figure, and no one could ever beat him. And the Undertaker beat him at WrestleMania 9, and it's like the guy could barely move around the ring because he was so tall.
They gave him a bad outfit too.
They really did.
It's like, is he supposed to be naked werewolf man? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I think he was in Thunder in Paradise for an episode too.
I think so. I think you're right. Just look for the man with the missing head because the camera couldn't pan back. All right,
like
so we're all in
sideshow
agreement on this,
attraction or
right?
something.
But yeah, so surprise, surprise, Stone Cold Steve Austin is the winner by 100% of the vote of everyone. No one is arguing against that.
Unprecedented.
Ain't nobody chanting CM Punk in this.
No. Oh, CM Punk. Oh, okay, so CM Punk has gone from our tournament, which, you know, I guess the wrongs of my first round have been righted. Whatever. All right, matchup number 2. No, I love Dusty Rhodes' awful outfit.
This is tough.
Well, you know what social media said about this?
Let's see what they said.
Social media said this wasn't tough. So this is Ric Flair 100% of the vote.
Wow. I hadn't looked at it.
I was about to say, I think I voted for Ric Flair. Well, of course I did.
Everyone did. So before we get into it right quick, Eveld says, I would agree CM Punk has a very slight edge on the mic, but overall Stone Cold runs away with it. He defined badassery. No qualms there.
The thing about Stone Cold's edge on the mic, I think, or Punk's edge on the mic, is Punk actually spoke calmly and very concise to the point, didn't get over, like, animated with certain things, and I think that's one of the things that led to his edge over on the mic. Is, you know, he could sit there and he could cut a promo, but be it like the worst thing ever, but keep it as calm and relaxed as just having a conversation. And it got to the point to where it was like, wow, this guy's pissed. You could just tell the way he's staring, but, you know, he's like, I'm going to kick your ass, you know, just.
So I think the thing about CM Punk is that because his character and because people always get kayfabe, the character of it all confused with reality, is people just started thinking, well, the CM Punk guy's an asshole. And yes, apparently there's some truth to that. But he's not he's not an asshole in the same vein of like some of the other people that went through the company at that time, like Ryback. Ryback thought he should have been the next big thing because he had people chanting "Feed me more," and he was just this steroided out monster, and like was just a general asshole and apparently a prima donna in the back. At least CM Punk, you had someone that started out as like a 16-year-old kid backyard wrestling and then found his way through the indies before getting in there. I don't think Ryback did the same adventure. I think he was just a big muscly guy that Vince found and brought into him or Kevin Sullivan found and just brought him in there. But yeah, so we have Dusty Rhodes versus Ric Flair. Woo!
Man, you know, and I agree with social media. I voted for Ric Flair, just because. And here's what came down. I didn't take into effect that you know, promo cutting or this. These are two of the only guys where you could say they're on equal footing. Let's put them in the ring. Who wins the match? And that's where I think Flair has the advantage over Dusty Rhodes, all things considered, because I thought they both cut great promos. They were both very energetic in their promos. They kayfabe all the way. when it got down to ability, not ability, maybe that's a bad word, but when it got down into in the ring, I don't know. I feel like Flair wins this match in a Ric Flair type way, you know, because Flair had thumb to the eye. You know, Flair
grabbing the ropes on the figure four,
something like that. So you know, and when it comes down to it, if this is a tournament, you got to feel like it's kind of a match. That's where I'm kind of going on this, and that's why I'm giving it to Ric Flair, just because of that. I think Ric Flair gets by in a match with Dusty Rhodes just because it's how it worked. Now, will it be the same next round? Yes, he used means to win, to where Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, you know, Mr. America and his Bumblebee outfit. I just, you know, and I love the guy to death, but I can't see Flair losing this for any reason.
So this is one of those things where I would literally see if there was 5 matches, Ric Flair would win 4 out of the 5, and Dusty Rhodes, being the American Dream, would win that last one.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Good point.
You know, Ric Flair was the ultimate heel. You loved to hate the guy. He would come out. He was, you know, oh, the Nature Boy, and you know, he would sit there and he would find a way to win, cheating no matter what he would do it to win. You know, that's what made Ric Flair so great. Like their in-ring abilities could be matched just about equally, in my opinion. But just, I mean, I remember so many more Ric Flair matches than
that had so much more meaning.
Yeah, then, you know, because, you know, like I think we talked about it at one point. Dusty Rhodes, when he came over from NWA, like Vince tried to bury him.
Yeah,
I mean, put him in a polka dot outfit.
Yeah, that was the whole thing with the polka dot outfit. They did not want him.
Yeah. So
but people liked him. To Evil just said a good point. One of the most likable wrestlers in history, son of a plumber. I'm not arguing that at all. I think that's a great point. I mean, to this day, you know, and there.
Oh, you
there
listen
are
to
only
anybody. You listen to anybody who's had any interaction with them, you know, or any kind of training by him from like WWE, like with NXT or anything like that back when the Nature or when Dusty Rhodes was still alive. You know, it's give me your Dusty Rhodes impression, and everybody had one,
right?
You know,
yeah.
But Ric Flair is Ric Flair, man. He's a 16-time world champion. He's
woo.
So I'll say this. I think if this was a bracket for most influential to the wrestling business, then maybe I pull for Dusty in that, because I think a lot of what Dusty did that he did great was booking wise and things that he contributed behind the scenes. I think his work in WWE is probably more well known for how he helped cultivate a new generation of wrestlers, that help cultivate the idea of the Performance Center, help bring in things. But like one of the biggest things I know about him and know for him is that he's the one that essentially made the War Games, which is a match type that I kind of dig. I kind of dig when people do it if you do it right and it's not just a complete shit show, which, you know, sometimes it can be, and it was at times with WCW. But both these guys had a big NWA run, and Dusty, Dusty's biggest runs probably came in NWA. That's probably a thing that also hurts him to the voting audience, is not a lot of people remember that time because it wasn't a super well televised thing as it is now, or as it became with Crockett's Federation turning into WCW, and then that's where things kind of take off there. But even with that work, it was more Dusty doing stuff in the back. So to go to TJ's point of, if these guys fought 4 times, or these guys fought 5 times, Ric Flair would win 4 times, I would argue, and Dusty would probably be the one that booked it that way, because he understands, you know, listen, I can make a good match, but Ric Flair's the one that probably needs to win it. So yeah,
well, you got to tell that 5-part story of, you know, I'm the American Dream, I'm the underdog, and I keep losing, but that one time that I win, that one time, that fifth time,
Special.
that final time when I
That's the
win,
special one.
the pop that you're gonna get from that crowd
Yes.
is gonna be amazing. You can't have me win the first one and then lose the rest of them. You got to have me lose all 4 of them and then win that 5th one to get that pop and really tell that story.
To go on that point, and that really just kind of firms it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you just answered the question for everybody. I feel like Dusty Rhodes would be the person that say, no, Ric Flair should win this contest between the two of us based on the, he was just, that's because he knew the dynamic and he was just so well versed in how things went. I think if he were alive right now and in our chat right now, I think Dusty Rhodes would vote for Ric Flair in this match. I really do.
Longevity is a factor too. Is that what that says?
Well,
Ric Flair was
they've been around for about
longevity 20 years ago.
I mean, both of these. I mean, Ric Flair's 128 years old. So well, longevity, yes, but I mean, I can't imagine these two have been around. There's not like an age gap between them. They were roughly the same age. They roughly came up to. So longevity. You got to give that to Flair just because I think he stayed in better shape, and a lot of that might have been because Dusty was behind the scenes and had too many Cheez-Its, which is a problem I have. Yeah. So nothing. No offense,
Get
Bumblebee,
back to the
brother.
food topic.
Back to
food for you, MS Wyatt. We got you, dog.
Ric Flair went vegan. Dusty went
Wyatt.
to Olive Garden, which is where I'm going.
I love Wyatt. Yeah, Ric Flair wasn't eating those carbs while Dusty was probably powering through those unlimited breadsticks. Which I don't blame him, man. I don't blame him. Get the soup and the salad and tear apart the breadsticks.
And it wasn't a good Ric Flair match unless he got busted open and his white hair turned red.
That's such a cool gimmick, though. But his forehead looks like roast beef from Arby's, where they've got the meats because his head has been so bladed.
That dude bladed when he didn't have to blade. He'd trip over the turnbuckle. Next thing you know, he's bleeding out of his forehead.
Listen, that's the story of what WCW.
Elbow drops his jacket, bleeds from the forehead.
Elbow drops his jacket. Next thing you know, he's got a hole in his head.
What
happened, Rick? I'm old. I don't know.
That's the story of what WCW. It's a bleeds. They bladed when they didn't need to. Wrestling.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think in this one, it sounds like we're all going with Ric Flair.
Woo!
And I feel like it's hard. I feel like it's hard not to go with Ric Flair in this discussion. Again, I think maybe if you were looking at overall ambassadors to professional wrestling or to the art or to just general impact to it, Dusty Rhodes probably maybe wins that conversation because Ric Flair, all he really has is his wrestling side. He wasn't booking. He wasn't developing talent. He wasn't doing anything else except being the character that he is, which people love. So, I mean, they're not to discredit from that, but
he was making the company money.
He was a limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing son of a gun.
Sponsored by Arby's.
What?
Because his forehead. Let's see. He was hobbling out the form. Yeah.
Who's next?
Listen, you know what? And this is eventually probably going to be a sticking point for me. Is that Ric Flair had one of the greatest retirement matches that he then went on to wrestle at TNA and fucking ruined it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I forgot that until TJ brought it up one time when I was like, shit, he did go to TNA after that. That son of a bitch, he did it. Because he should have stopped right there because that was one of the best retirement matches. Undertaker doesn't have a good retirement match. Undertaker's last match.
Change my vote.
Bring back Dusty. But think about it. Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels were like two of the only wrestlers that were going to have a pristine, good story to end their career. And even though Ric Flair was kind of past his prime by the time his retirement match, he had a good match with Shawn Michaels, a great match with Shawn Michaels that was such a good story overall. And then he goes and wrestles Hulk Hogan in TNA and does all this other
He
shit.
wrestled Hulk Hogan and Sting and
It
So-
just-
maybe like Macho Man at some point or something like that. I
Hey,
mean, he
the only thing he
had a few matches.
The only thing he did good in TNA was him getting into a woo-off with Jay Lethal, who Jay Lethal, if you don't know who he is, does a spot-on Ric Flair impersonation. So it was literally like a younger black Ric Flair was yelling at an older actual Ric Flair in the ring, and it was amazing.
Jay Lethal, part of his time in TNA was kind of a copying of the Macho Man Randy Savage
Yep.
gimmick. And that's where, like, I guess the whole woo off came from and stuff like that. It's like
Woo off.
yeah, the woo off.
All right.
But
Yeah, no, it's good.
gosh, that
Hey.
was some good matches.
I want
TNA and old.
that's another thing before we go to this one, which is contentious. That Ric Flair Shawn Michaels match, and again, I've told y'all about that I've read, Shawn Michaels' book, which is fantastic. And if you're a reader, go get it. It is such a great read. But one of the things that I liked about that moment where everybody remembers Flair getting up and being like, "Come on," and then you can see Shawn, "I love you, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Super kick, pin. And immediately after the pin, Shawn rolls over and hugs him. That was one of the things to me. That was not planned. That was a genuine, emotional. We just turned the tide in history here. And I love seeing moments like that. I love being able to identify with moments like that, because it's like, when the wrestlers get out of their element and the kayfabe kind of goes away for just a second, it's like, this is special. What we did tonight was special. At the I always Bret Hart. I love Bret Hart. Hey man, Bret Hart. At the end of WrestleMania 12, it didn't end so much in such of a kumbaya because it wasn't planned that way, and Bret and Shawn really weren't friends. But Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels, it's kind of like, all right, Shawn, you're going to go out there, you're going to kick him in the face, and you're going to end his career. He's never going to wrestle for this organization again. All right, ready, 1, 2, 3, go.
Until Saudi Arabia asked
Until Saudi Arabia. But that's just one of those things. It's like, that's one of the most emotional moments in wrestling history. Two icons standing there, a career on the line, which, let's face it, because he came on Raw the next night and retired, I think. But it's just that stands up there as, and I didn't really think it was that great of a match, and the whole scheme of things. It was a great ending. It was one of the greater endings in wrestling history. I didn't think the match was all that fantastic, because Ric Flair's 907 years old. And Shawn Michaels is only 104.
Yep. All right, so this next one, I don't know if you can feel it. It's getting a little bit darkness in the air.
Wait.
By God, it's the Undertaker! It's the Undertaker!
Oh my God, he killed him! He killed him!
All right, so we've got two guys that I don't know if they've ever wrestled each other before in their life. We've got Mick Foley, also known as Mankind, also known as Dude Loved, also known as Cactus Jack, also known as Mrs. Foley's
Jesse
baby boy. So we've got
Mick
this.
Foley, William H. Bonney.
So Rock Your Face says all that happened because the old guys didn't get paid enough during their primes, needed cash. I would argue, yes, maybe there was some screwing over of talents, but also they probably didn't spend their money very wisely.
No.
Kind of cocaine addictions and buying big cars probably eventually led to
No, you went out and you bought a car, you bought some blow, you bought a new house, and you put it all on a credit card.
And you wreck
Hulk
that new
Hogan
car
was-
into the
was-
new house because of the blow, and then you buy a new one and start over.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan nearly bankrupted TNA because he was running out of money.
Whoa! Hot take from Rock Your Face. Hot
give
take
us?
from Rock Your Face. Rock Your Face says for a 100-bit cheer says, I feel like every Undertaker storyline is super boring. Woo! Woo!
You feel like it's boring, eh? You say it's boring? No. No. Hey, that's not a bad point, actually. I
American
wouldn't go
Badass
as worse,
Undertaker,
but
yes, I agree. I hated the American Badass Undertaker.
Yeah, after like 19, well, no, let's say 2002, I was like, all right, I'm done with this.
You know, but in that era, the American Badass Undertaker really fit in more than the Undertaker. You know?
Sure, but I hated that he was a
Attitude Era type stuff.
I hated that he went from the dead man to a guy on a bike.
Yeah.
Like
he went from the dead man to a very tall Kid Rock.
It's what he was. He was Kid Rock. He's what Kid Rock thought Kid Rock was.
He's what Kid Rock wished Kid Rock.
Yeah, he's what Kid Rock saw in the mirror.
Wants to be.
He's like, I look
Kid
that
Rock
big.
went to a funhouse mirror and's like, that's it.
Rock Your Face says, "Come at me. I am the American Badass."
No, you know, hey, I think Rock Your Face has got a good point here. I don't
Honestly, yeah.
He's not making a bad point if that's what you're asking, because I'm having a hard time finding a storyline where I thought that's super compelling. Maybe the Ministry where he was like crucifying people just because that was a real jarring scene.
What we do.
How
are you going to finish this match? Well, I'm going to nail it to
the way the story ends has a
it's
big
such
part
bad,
in it.
yeah, such
and
shit.
And the way it ended with Vince McMahon going, "It was me all along.
It was me, Austin."
Yeah, I feel like they totally messed that up. And Vince has messed up plenty of shit. But I don't know. I felt like everything was rolling along there, and then it just kind of stopped and got stupid. And it's like that's when I was like,
You know, I give Mick Foley this. You know that. You know, a lot of his storylines, you know, because of his different versions of Mankind, because he was Cactus Jack, because he was Dude Love, and because he was all three in one Royal Rumble, it made it entertaining to where it's like, what's this guy going to do next? He went from the mandible claw to pulling a sock out of his pants.
That's my new Twitter handle, by the way. It's Dude Cactus, @DudeCactus.
I mean, he definitely had a way to make himself more like he had a way to adapt that was really good. And Undertaker didn't have to really adapt, other than he became a biker guy all of a sudden at one point in his life.
So one thing I will say, and we get down to wrestling ability, and you could go by wrestling ability of each one of Mick Foley's alter egos, Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, Mankind, you know. But he never really had anything else besides the wrestling style was still kind of the same. One thing I will say, and me and Eveld were actually talking about this the other day, the very fact that Mick Foley is alive right now gets him in this conversation because there's not a lot of people other than Jeff Hardy that would jump off a 15-foot cage into a table filled with tacks. Now, and to Mick Foley's credit, he did it when he was in his 40s, and you know Hardy was still in his 20s at the time. So I think that he's definitely hardcore. If there's any hardcore person out there that deserves hardcore person of all time, Mick Foley gets it hands down. When you put these, and this was a challenge for me because I don't want to discredit everything that Mick has done, but you know, this going back to what somebody said earlier, longevity, you look at that and it's like Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, has, you know, he's retired now, allegedly, even though he's wrestled a couple times.
Saudi Arabia.
The next Saudi Arabia thing, oil.
Next year's WrestleMania.
But this was tough for me. I voted for Taker just because it's the opposite of the Ric Flair Dusty Rhodes. I think you're 4 out of 5 this time. Mankind, Mick Foley kind of wins to piss the crowd off. That 5th time at the WrestleMania or at the Royal Rumble, at the big event, Undertaker wins. However, Mankind has won a couple of those matches too. So this was very tough for me. What did social media say?
Social media said in this one it was 62% for The Undertaker, 38% for Mick Foley.
That's kind of how I feel. TJ, I've shot on a little bit. What do you got?
Man, I don't even remember which one I voted for on this, but it is a lot harder. If you're looking at wrestling ability, like each one, Mick Foley was better at taking bumps.
Yeah.
He was better at taking the punishment than probably anybody current or past WWE. Um, but the Undertaker, like, in his prime, had a lot more moves in his moveset.
Yeah.
And even he developed and created more and more moves. He went from just being, the doing the old school, and then the tombstone pile driver, to having the submissions and other finishing moves, that really kind of developed along with each of his characters.
Yeah.
Mick
His
Foley was really
his top rope walk was like one of the easiest yet so cool things to see.
it was one of the things too, because he was such a big guy and he's on that top rope and he's walking across the top rope and he's the dead man. How is he defying gravity? It's because he's dead. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But like you look at Mick Foley and it's like Mick Foley, man, he's like, I don't really know much any of his move sets other than punches, kicks, maybe a suplex here or there, or a
The
pile
old
driver.
mandible claw.
But the mandible claw, that's like the main thing. That was like his main finishing move ever.
Here's the thing. I want to point this out real quick too. Mick Foley, very much like, in a strange way, Jerry Lawler. There was a group of these individuals. Mick Foley was an expert of having the shit kicked out of him.
Mm-hmm.
That was his. That was what he did best. Whether he won or lost, Mick Foley, like you guys said, was willing to go in there and take the beating. That, again, like I said, the fact that he's alive today gets him in this conversation, because I ain't jumping off a steel cage. Now, granted, I'm not the athlete that he is, but I feel like there's more to it than that. I will say this: Foley is better on the mic because he has the better character persona, but that's not what we're talking about, man.
Well, it's part of what we're talking about.
We're talking about, yeah.
It is.
It
is.
You look at the Undertaker. The Undertaker's mic, work on the mic is
Smart.
You're gonna rest in peace.
He didn't need it though. That's the best. He's one of the only characters
honestly,
in WWE history that did not need the mic. They would cut the promo
because he
in
had
a shed somewhere, sharpening an axe.
Because he had Paul Bearer. Because he had a manager. That's because he had a manager.
That did help.
Paul Bearer was the voice.
The
Mick Foley. Mankind. When Mankind first came to the WWE, he was going to be Mankind the Mutilator.
Yep.
Then he was just Mankind, and Paul Bearer was his. Paul Bearer was his. I mean, it was probably one of the greatest gimmicks ever.
Do you remember? Do you remember in Madison Square Garden? I don't know what it was, but it's when Paul Bearer finally shifted and turned on the Undertaker, and Undertaker and Paul Bearer having this, Undertaker and Mankind are having this match, and Paul Bearer is suspended in this cage above the ring. I just remember thinking to myself, I don't know if me being Paul Bearer, if I would agree to this or not. How would you like to sit up there for 45 minutes?
Hey, Eveld, I have a question for you. Can you give me one of Paul Bearer's names that he used outside of the WWE?
Ooh, Eveld. Let's see what you got here. How much your wrestling knowledge, boy?
Is legendary without looking it up. But Paul Bearer, when Mankind first came in, Paul Bearer was his manager. And it was always one of those things as he was pulling out his hair, and they had the music, they had the one entrance music, and he would go crazy, and then they would have the second outro music that was just like piano playing to calm him down. It was genius.
Yeah. They really did have a good gimmick for Mankind, which the Cactus Jack days from WCW moving over way past WWE, back, when it after Mankind, I guess. Because he did come back in WWF for Cactus Jack for a while, didn't he? Right? Yeah.
One of his story arcs was he was fighting, who was it? Terry Funk? There was someone he was wrestling against for a storyline where he went through the 3 stages. But I know for Cactus Jack it was to come back and to fight Terry Funk and then to tag team with Terry Funk after I guess locking each other in a dumpster, and then they got into this death match tag team match. I forgot with who, but they literally were like using like forklifts and chainsaws. And it was the New Age Outlaws. That's who it was. It was New Age Outlaws versus Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. And Terry Funk had the pantyhose stalking over his head.
He was Chainsaw Charlie.
Chainsaw Charlie. Yes. Yes.
Oh man, what a shitty idea. But it was fun. So I think
Jack and Chainsaw Charlie.
Who was it? So he was challenging for something. It was a title or something. Maybe it was Stone Cold, where he's like, you have to give me a shot, and he gave him a shot against all his different personas. So like each time he'd come out to beg for a shot, it would be like Dude Love this time, and then Cactus Jack the next time. It might have been The Rock. It might have been The Rock. It was someone that was holding the title.
It was The Rock.
It was someone that was holding the title.
It was the Rock and Sock connection, I think, at one point is what it ended up being. But there was, I remember the Royal Rumble where it was like, it's Mankind's coming out. And then it's like, he gets eliminated, goes to the back and changes.
Runs his back, changes
later,
clothes.
and he's like, that's Dude Love. And he got like 3 shots in that Royal Rumble.
So, after all that, I think we're all in agreement here that Slide Edge, Undertaker.
I'm not going to use my save, so I'm going to go with whatever social media says. So it's up to you boys.
I'm in the boat. Yeah,
want to go with
it. Yeah, no, I'm with social media on this. I feel like this is one of those where like any other Mankind, Mick Foley, Dude Love faces anybody else. I think what hurts him here too is that he had so many matches with the Undertaker. So. Slide Edge.
Each match was different, though, man.
No, they were. They absolutely were. They absolutely were. But I felt like that's where I see where Rock Your Face says it's kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Undertaker Mankind thing got boring for me watching it live when it happened. It got bored really quick. I'm like, all right, let's get it going. Let's move on. Let's get something else. So I'm not willing to use the save. I will go with social media, and I will say Taker gets the win. Travis.
Yeah.
It's all on you, brother.
I'm not gonna use the save either. It's gonna be Taker, and the main thing is, like I said, wrestling ability is, Mankind, Mick Foley can take the bumps. But Undertaker had a far greater moveset. So Paul Bearer, before he was in the WWE, one of his territory names was Percival Pringle.
Oh.
Can you imagine that name in the WWE? The Undertaker managed by Percival
Pringle.
All
right.
Oh
yes, my Undertaker.
All right. So here we go. It's Taker's win.
Without turning my light
again. Undertaker wins again. Sorry, Mick.
Sorry, Mick. It's just you never get a break. Now this one I wanted to save for the very last one because unlike the last one, we as a trio did not all agree with this. So between Undertaker and Mankind, Mick Foley, all 3 of us voted for Undertaker. But on this next one, we all 3 did not agree. So this next matchup, and I've got more things. First we gotta do this. We gotta do this. Come on, let's do it. There we go.
Oh, wait a minute.
And then we gotta do. So we've got Sting, the Icon, versus Macho Man Randy Savage.
Jared, do you remember around WrestleMania 12? You You remember around WrestleMania 12 when Macho Man and Hulk Hogan were both in WCW, and so they had those promos where it was the Nacho Man and the Huckster.
Yep.
Yep. I sure do, brother.
Oops.
It was wow. So I think if you look at just WWE, there's no way Macho Man doesn't win this. When you go to WCW, though, I feel like it gets a little more contentious.
And then when you remember both of them were in TNA, you want to just forget.
Well, you know, Sting had a better career in TNA. Macho Man was towards the end. I think he died later.
Sting had a better career in TNA because Sting watched Heath Ledger's Joker and saw how popular that was and was like, I could do that.
I'm gonna be honest. I do not recall TNA with these two.
I only recall like I think Macho Man only appeared like a couple of times. He wasn't
okay.
But you know he was long retired, and I think he died shortly after.
Yeah.
Sting was in TNA for quite some time.
Yeah.
And actually was probably one of the biggest reasons why TNA became relevant during that time.
Agreed.
You know.
What do you think, TJ? Who'd you vote for?
I don't even remember. I probably voted for Sting.
You voted for Sting.
I voted for Sting.
Okay. TJ voted for Sting. Who did I vote for, Chris?
You voted for the Macho Man. And who did I vote for?
Yes.
Who did you vote for, Chris?
The cream will rise to the top.
I voted for Macho Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
So,
like, I think Macho Man had some great matches, like back in the early days, like the early, WrestleMania, the low WrestleMania numbers.
So this one, this social media wise, this one drew the most votes and was the more compelling of kind of, because there was a point earlier on where it was really neck and neck, and I think maybe even flip-flopped at one point, but then one competitor took the advantage down the stretch. But this one garnered the most votes by easily 10 additional votes. So this one was one that got people really, really, really wanting to vote, and I appreciate that.
So what we got? What social media say?
Social media said 60% for Macho Man, 40% for Sting.
So we got social media Macho, we got CAC Macho, we got TJ Sting. So really, it all comes down to me. Now, I think I voted for Macho Man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's on the Facebook poll, which counts as social media. But don't forget, I get a save. Where do I start? Macho Man has faced Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior. He did a lot of stuff in TNA, WWE, and WCW. Sting also has done the same thing. I think Sting is the better wrestler. When it comes down to physical ability, I think Sting is the better wrestler. He was not good on a mic. Macho Man was, not only was he good on a mic, but for the later half of his career in WWF/WWE, he was a damn commentator. That's how much they liked Macho Man. So, body of work. Macho Man had he was an old school guy, Bret Hart era. Well, before that, but he threw a lot of punches, a lot of headlocks, not a whole lot of moves necessarily. Sting had a lot more moves. He had a lot more. He moved around a lot more. He was a better wrestler. Having said that, I don't think, whether it be WWF/WWE or WCW, these two go head to head. I feel like it's the Hulk Hogan or the one of the ones we did earlier where it's like Sting wins 1 out of 5. The difference is in this particular instance, excuse me. Sorry. The difference is in this particular instance, I don't feel like that one match that Sting wins is at all weighted against Macho Man's 4 wins. So I gotta go with the flying elbow. I feel like overall now, I know greatest wrestler of all time. All the factors that we have considered, I feel like when you combine them all and average them out, which I have not done, but I will, damn it, if you want me to.
Man, you're just beating around the bush.
Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah.
So now it comes to this. Now we got a little bit of a standoff here. TJ, do you want to use your save? And again, let me remind you, if you use your save, one of us could also use a save, trump your save. Your save would then go back to you, but then you would lose out on the vote.
Hello, I'm TJ, and I don't know how to use my save this time.
You're just talking to
I
hear
think-
yourself talk, Jared.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
You gonna say it again?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh well.
Go ahead, me lord. Go ahead, me lord.
It's like, TJ, I have a question. 20 minutes later, when Jared stops talking.
Hey, you know what? Shut up. I'm a chatty son of a bitch. Okay.
I
All right.
know, and I'm beating around the bush too, honestly.
Yeah, you are.
Take it
So
on.
why don't you put that in your pipe and smoke it?
I left it at home.
TJ, are you letting the cream rise to the top, or are you taking a baseball bat to it?
You remember when the mega powers collided, and it was the whole oh yeah, they weren't about to punch touch fists or whatever, or shake hands. It was the handshake, and it was just like it was this long build up to this handshake. So that's what I'm gonna make the long build up to the handshake.
I gotta give him credit for that. I'm
So,
not just gonna answer your question.
I'm
gonna talk about it for 45 minutes and then be like, boom.
This reminds me of the time where Sting came out wearing a mask to trick the NWO, and he took off the mask to expose his face that looked just like the fucking mask he had just taken off. Where I think he was supposed to be like Six or Sticks or whatever the NWO
Yeah.
copy was.
So like before like this Crow Sting, when he was like the Surfer Boy Sting, man, he had some really good matches like with Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, like back in the early WCW. Macho Man has had so many more good matches going back earlier in his time with the WWF. And going back on what you were saying, Jared, like if you put these, if you gave them 5 matches, one match where Sting would win, the other 4 where Macho Man would win. No, all 5 matches would probably end in a disqualification of some sort because neither of them would want to give the win to the other.
No.
That being said,
I'll give
wrestling
you that,
ability,
100%.
wrestling ability, I think Sting is better wrestler, but it's not just wrestling ability. It's also going on the mic and going on this other stuff. Man, I remember some Macho Man like on commentary, and it was awesome on all levels.
Right.
I'm giving it to Macho Man. I'm gonna go ahead and go with what everyone else. I don't think I voted for Sting, but
Oh yeah! Gosh, the fucking graduation song.
so
Hey,
that's my 2 cents.
listen, I
Sorry about that. What happened?
I by proxy had someone say this for me earlier.
The cream will rise to the top.
But listen, like I don't feel good about eliminating Sting because I really
I don't either.
I wasn't as big of a fan for Surfer Sting. Now I have a friend, Wilson. Wilson loves Surfer Sting. Like Surfer Sting is like what Wilson like when he thinks of wrestling, he thinks of Surfer Sting. When I think of Sting, I think he was basically like WCW's answer to the Undertaker, and
Right.
for a time I found him more interesting than the
Well, there
current
was that
WWF
whole
Undertaker.
year where he didn't say an entire word,
Which was so
was
fucking compelling.
amazing.
Yeah.
you know. And then all of a sudden it's like, you know, all the storylines get convoluted and everything else that's happening, and it's just kind of ruined it. And he's really kind of been that version of Sting, you know, the Crow version of it ever since. He's never gone back to the Surfer Sting.
I can talk again.
All right. So yeah. So we've got that. That was it. Yay for wrestling.
Bow chicka wow wow. It's time to go to bed.
It is. It is. All right. So thank you all so much. Next week we have another slate of matchups. If you want, let me just burn through what that would look like real quick. Blah. Oh gosh. Sorry. That's all right. Can I just tell you what right now? What
Mr. Cack, have you been drinking?
I've drank something. So what the second half of this bracket, so what round 3 looks like for this half of the bracket is you have Ric Flair versus Macho Man Randy Savage, which I think we might be able to find some film on. And then you have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Undertaker. Man, it's going to be a heartbreaking round 3. Round 3's for heartbreaking. And so let's see. So next week when we do this discussions, we will be having us a conversation about the brother region and the If You Smell region, where we have The Rock versus Daniel Bryan. We have Chris Jericho versus Shawn Michaels. That one's going to be match 4. I can promise you right now, that one's going to be match 4 unless voting goes real sideways. Which then if it goes real sideways, I think people are going to have a lot of interesting thoughts when it comes down to us 3 anyways. And then you have Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper. And then you've got Rey Mysterio Jr., who Rock Your Face has been campaigning for, versus Bret the Hitman Hart. So I think next week.
Can we save this one for last?
I think next week's gonna be a tough one.
Wow.
There you go, boys. I hope you're looking forward to it.
This is, this tournament idea with all these tournament things, with sci-fi films, best series of all times, wrestler of all times, these are fun. They really are because they challenge us, and we have to talk about it.
And I make people go to our Facebook page. Go to our Facebook page. Support the Facebook. We have an Instagram. I don't really use it a whole lot, but go to the gram. Support the gram. Sometimes my Facebook advertisements go to the gram. We're also on Twitter. Go to the Twitter. But you know what? At the end of the day, as long as you show up to our Twitch and maybe give us money, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Give us a follow. If you're here and you haven't heard us talk before, please give a follow. Support the stream. Come back and yell about things later. This has been a lovely night where we talked about some random bullshit that all started with someone trying to ask, beg, plead for us to talk about anime and food, and we did just the bare minimum of what they asked. So thank y'all so much, TJ Jared, for joining me. I will see you boys next Friday. I am Mr. Cack, and this is my Twitch channel, and this has been Rage You Nerds, the podcast. We will have episodes up, maybe not on YouTube. I think this is going to be more of just a straight to Spotify thing, so that way I can do big chunks of it. It's really hard to narrow down our incoherent ramblings to like a good 15 minutes and keep it all one episode because I feel like a lot of what we talk about is good. So the Spotify, iHeartRadio stuff will always have the longer full conversations of us. So I think all the wrestling stuff might go straight to there. Maybe I'll do a best of for the rounds or something. But it's hell on earth trying to figure out, to pick and choose what to cut and what not to cut for making this a YouTube quality video. So fuck
here,
you, YouTube
bastards.
Yeah.
Get on the game.
That's a full-time job trying to make it a YouTube thing, man.
Yeah, YouTube, the algorithm does not like you hitting over so many minutes. Like if you try to go past like 12 minutes, you've lost an audience. So we got to find ways to do it. But I think
how the hell is Joe Rogan famous then?
His
podcast.
His podcast outside of YouTube.
Yeah.
Shut up, TJ.
And he probably has a best of where it's just all of his like highlights where he's like, what if monkeys
smoking pot?
What if baboons were taking our jobs and we were out in the wilderness? And that's like shit that he would say. I don't know. Like he says some of the dumbest shit that's funny.
Okay, can we both agree, and don't get me wrong, I like Joe. But is he getting close to who's that conspiracy guy? Alex
Jones. Alex Jones.
Jones.
I'll never forget
Joe
Alex
Rogan
Jones.
Getting to Alex Jones level.
At least with
how
Joe
much-
Rogan, you know it's because he's blazed out of his fucking mind.
Yeah, Joe Rogan's like, today we're talking about the Fed and how the Fed interest rates affect economies. What we're going to do right now is burn a big old fatty.
Yeah, it's just like it's like watching Half Baked, but then like having like at certain points in it, they're
It's
like,
like watching Half Baked, Fully Baked.
except like at certain points, the guy that plays the goat from Saturday Night Live sketches eventually like starts throwing out like, "Did you know this in the economy?" And it's like, what? What? I'm high, you're high. What are we doing? Like, what? How is this a thing right now?
So I watched before we go. If you're a big fan of Discovery shows, there used to be a show on Discovery called Survival Man, and it was with a Canadian guy called Les Stroud. He took all his cameras with him, and it was basically Bear Grylls, only he did it all himself. And as far as I'm concerned, he's 10 times the badass that Bear Grylls was. Anyways, he likes to smoke weed. Fine. If you like to smoke weed, that's cool. Joe Rogan likes to smoke weed. So they all get on a show one night together, and both of these people are smoking weed. It was the most incoherent ramble I've ever seen. He was like, "Do you believe in Bigfoot, bruh?" And then Stroud was like, yeah, like I've seen him in the woods, man, and I used my starter knife kit to build a fire. And Rogan was like, "So Bigfoot's real then, bruh?" Les Stroud's like, "Yeah, bro, totally." If you get the chance, go watch it. Go watch Les Stroud, Joe Rogan on YouTube. It's good stuff.
Can you imagine just random?
Smoke a bowl before you do it. I mean, not that that's legal in any state in the United States. Don't do that.
Medical's fine.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to think if there was like a good moment to find, a good clip from Joe Rogan to throw out there, but like all of his stuff is really, you got to be careful because he does say some stuff.
Here, I tell you what, Chris, the best way to find a Joe Rogan clip, narrow your search results to one that he is smoking a fatty.
Can you imagine though, like
That
if Joe
always
Rogan
leaves you,
was
like,
one of those guys?
400,000.
If Joe Rogan was one of those guys who, just got really quiet and zoned out whenever he was high, how his podcast would be. So we're gonna talk about.
So tonight, we're gonna talk about Alex Jones is here with the frogs and.
Oh yeah, so I'm looking through these clips myself, thinking, "Fuck, am I high? Like, what's going on here?" Also, the just like the smattering of people Joe Rogan interviews for his show is absurd. It goes from Kevin Hart to this guy that's like in the science of the economy to back to Kevin Hart to like, who the fuck is this guy? Some of the MMA guys, so which that's not as fun because they're just gonna sound stupid.
I've been punched in the head too many times.
But yeah,
Mark
like
says I should stop fighting.
yeah, he brings politicians on. He brings sports people on. Like I want to see him.
That. He's all over the place. I like it.
He's got Elon Musk coming in. Elon Musk named his child after like a binary code or some dumb shit. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, eventually there's like a rich threshold where your way of perceiving the world turns into a cartoon. And like, I can't wait. I would love to have that much money where I start painting black tunnels on walls just to see if I could walk through to the other side of the fucking building. Because I like rich people make no sense to me. The wealthy, famous people make no fucking sense to me after a certain threshold. Like eventually your humanity leaves you and you become like one piano dropped on your head from walking out of there with keys in your mouth, playing some Beethoven or some stupid shit. This has been Rage, you nerds, and I don't know what else to say. This is me rambling, bone sober. Maybe I should smoke pot and be Joe Rogan. I don't fucking know anymore. MMA, boxing, cauliflower ears. I once did stand up. There, I'm now Joe Rogan. I'm now Joe
Real
Rogan.
quick, I'd just like to note that while CAC is 100% stone cold sober, I'm not. So I apologize for nothing. Continue with your outro.
I don't have it. Shit. I didn't have the moment of rage. So I guess this is what we get.